I will say one more thing about the impact of the local church being the primary focus instead of the secondary focus is what happens is earlier I drew this like roundabout arrow where you have money coming in, you have people coming in, groups happening, you have events happening, worship happening, right? So if, let's say you have this money coming in from the tithe that the people are giving, and only 10% of, let's just use that. Like there's a lot of churches that will give to missions, let's just say, right? Or like ministry outside of the church walls. Okay. So 10% of that money goes there. Okay. So also consider, how is the individual believer who is working their butt off, serving the building with their finite and limited time and energy, supposed to do the best they can outside in the 98% of their other time, of the rest of their time during the week? Okay? So their time, their energy, right? And their money. Okay? So we have told ourselves that as long as we keep this local church getting bigger and better, so we'll say this getting bigger and better, this local church building, or let's just say the local church organization, equals more people helped, right? Spiritually, emotionally, financially, physically, right? I would argue that is not true. Because imagine if the 90% of just the money that is being spent on the upkeep of the building, the staff, all the other things, imagine if that was invested and taught in the life of the believer to use that for their circle in the world. Their time, their energy, and their money for their friends, the people that need help, the people that they come across every day that they see a need that they could help.
Right.
Whatever that looks like. So what happens is the individual believer is so tied up with their time, energy, money in this local church that they have almost nothing left to give to people in actual need.
They might not even feel like they're able.
They might not even feel like they need to, because they're told as long as they do these things inside the local church organization, they have checked the box. That's why we're taught to bring people into the building. Because all this stuff is happening here, right? So we're not saying like abolish all of this, but imagine if more than 10% went to missions. Imagine if more went to like someone that this person knew that was homeless, someone that this person knew that was in the foster care, someone knew that was elderly and that needed help moving stuff. Like all of these different things here that there's a need for, but they're spending all of it at the local church.
Yeah. Here's the problem though, is that once you start increasing this number, right? The money going out, the money coming in, the decrease. which is a problem that threatens
The organization.
the organization. And that's where, I mean, really a lot of fear comes in, because it's like, well, what are we going to do without this building?
Yeah. How are we gonna
Right?
do ministry without
Yeah,
this
how are
building?
we going to be effective? How are we going to reach people?
So what we've effectively created for ourselves is like a catch-22 problem. We have a catch-22 situation where if we are to do truly what Jesus commanded for kingdom living, it means typically at the sacrifice of a bigger and better building, which
Mhm.
in our heads, subconsciously, we think that that means that there's going to be less people helped,
Right.
or there's going to be less production, less events, like less people on staff, less stuff like that. But and yeah, that may happen at the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
But in reality, that is truly what will heal, like bring more people in and heal, because the individual believer will not be so focused on running the local church organization.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, they will be focused on becoming a better disciple
Right.
and then discipling others.
Yeah. I think with all of this whole thing, everything that we talked about, I think for anyone who's out there like listening to this, and for the people out there who have done all this, they've gotten plugged in to their church. They've been serving. Maybe they're on the worship team. Maybe they lead a Bible study. Maybe they're doing all these things. They're giving to their church. And maybe there's a person out there who like they still feel spiritually dead. Right?
Mm.
Kind of like what you said last week. The product isn't delivering.
Yes.
Like the transformation they were told that they were going to receive, they're just not seeing it. And I know that I myself have felt that.
How many times have we heard people who are like superstar servers
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
church?
I know people. I knew people like that growing up, dude.
Okay, superstar servers in the church that all of a sudden they disappear. And then you hear, oh, Susie, what happened? She was like serving all over the place. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like she got burned out. Like or something crazy happened in her life because she was so run down from all the time that she was spending here. And you maybe you see Susie later or whatever, you talk to her, and she, with a look of guilt and shame on her face, says, I just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, either that or it's like the complete opposite, where they just hate the church because they feel so
used,
hurt and used.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's like it's really like it's terrible on both sides, because either it's that they feel guilty and ashamed, or they completely just hate the church and they feel hurt. And on the other side too, like many times believers, it's like, like they stepped away. Like it's like, like they are kind of backsliding. It's like that kind of, there's a hint of judgment in there.
Oh, dude.
Which just feeds the hate of the person that's left. And it's just it's a vicious cycle. And so I really think what I would say to somebody who is in the machine, right? And they just feel like the product isn't delivering. I think I would encourage them. I would say, you know what? Like, take a step back. Take a step back. Focus on Christ. Do whatever, like, devote all your time and energy. Like, don't worry about all these things that the church is burdening you to do. And if people try to make you feel guilty for taking a step back, don't even
Don't-
bother to
don't-
listen.
You just
Don't-
have to understand that that's going to be some people's reaction.
Right.
And it comes from a place that they're sometimes trying to be genuine. They
Right,
think that
yes.
you not being at the local church means that you're leaving the ecclesia, the assembly
Yes.
of people,
Right.
which is not always the case.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Yeah. And so take a step back, learn and understand what it truly means to be a disciple of Christ.
Give yourself permission. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
And kind of like we're saying, that doesn't mean you have to hate the church. That doesn't mean you have to like go on this like crazy strike or become like this crazy deconstructionist, right? Like
No.
that's what we're trying not to become.
Yeah. Exactly.
But be okay. Don't allow people to guilt trip you. Don't allow people to make you feel ashamed for feeling spiritually dead in a place where you're trying so hard to not be. Right? And so focus on Christ. Allow him to truly transform you from the inside.
Yeah.
And when you feel like it,
Healed.
healed, yeah, and you feel like this, like you're, I don't know.
You've understood. When you feel like you've
Yes.
understood and you truly have the belief
Yes.
that we've describing about kingdom living.
Yeah. Then maybe start serving again.
Yeah.
Then maybe but now you understand. Now you can have boundaries in place so you don't allow this system to just tear you to pieces.
Literally shred you.
Yeah.
Like this is a machine that literally, it shreds people.
It does.
It can shred people.
Yeah.
It can build people up and it can tear people down.
Yeah.
It really can. It can shred you.
Yes.
And when Zach, like when you just said a second ago, it's okay to go back, like when you feel ready, go back in, like if you want to go back and serve. What we're saying is, what needs to be understood is that going back and serving at your local church, period, is only one tenet of service.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you really don't have to go back.
You don't. You can serve without serving your local church.
Yes.
So serving your spouse, kids if you have them, family, your neighbor,
co-workers,
friends,
yeah,
all falls under service.
Right.
And again, we speak, when you said serve just then, it was understood to meant to go back to serve at the local building.
Yeah.
So like the
even
language,
even then it came out
in
the language,
yes,
right
in
there.
the language. And
Yeah.
like you can lead. You can be a leader without leading in your local church, without leading a team at your local church. You can worship without being on the worship team at your local church, right?
Yeah.
Like you can give without tithing. That's a big one. You can have church with other people. You can have a corporate gathering,
An assembly
without ever stepping foot in here. You going to coffee with another believer is church. You need to understand that because it is an assembly of people where two or more are gathered. He is there.
That's why this is so huge. That's why it's empowering. Yes. That's why it's so exciting. That's the gospel.
You don't have to wait until Sunday to be a Christian.
Yeah.